Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Iron Age Marketing. I am Nicky P, here as always. My guest today is Arvid. How are we doing today, Arvid?
I feel great. How you doing?
I am getting to talk to a creator on a Friday for me, so it's a good day.
All right.
Why don't you, we'll start things off like I like to. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and how you ended up in this place?
Yeah, I was hoping you could tell me. I have no idea. I have none whatsoever.
I'm glad you made it because I was just about to make a joke, and the answer can't be because I clubbed you and drugged you
Right,
and
exactly.
carried you in.
Okay, so the truth is out. So I'll just make up something then. Yeah, I was it was after college. I was going to be in a band, and because sort of like it didn't stop me. I should have a shot collar. I mean, I'll give you the whatever the annotated the non-annotated version. But I really wanted to do music in college, and I got kicked out of a band, and it was sort of traumatic. And I took up with a new group of friends, and they were all into comic books, and I had always loved comic books. And so it was our last year of college, and we said we could start a comic book club, and we could get a comic printed, and we could use all of their production facilities. This is in like the G3 era of the Macintoshes, and they just got these brand spanking new sparkly G3s for the all the student publications. We were just like, well, we could do that. So it was one of the happiest times of my life. I mean, we just stay up until 3 a.m. drinking. Remember those like 99-cent Arizona tea, green tea things? They were like this big.
Yeah, they still are, surprisingly. I don't know how he's keeping costs down.
Are they really? Man, capitalism, man. And what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing.
There's also a wonderful song about those called $1 Can.
Okay, yeah. So we would just stay up until 3 a.m. drinking, those monster Arizona tea cans and like eating like, bugles, like bugle corn snacks. And it was just, like one night kind of towards the end of school, graduation was coming up. And one of our crew, Billy, said, we could do this after school too. We could all move to Brooklyn and we could start our own comic book publishing empire. And that's what we did. I mean, we didn't, the publishing empire. I don't know if that worked out, but that's exactly what.
You're still working on the publishing empire. You haven't got there yet.
Exactly. So that's kind of in a nutshell. That's kind of how I got started writing comics. Yeah.
Okay. And along the way, what are some of, I guess, the highlights or the high points and maybe low points if you want to go there?
Yeah. There have been low points. Actually, I don't mind going into low points. Like once, so I wrote a comic called Rex Mundy. I was after school, and I was also interested in film at the time. And I realized pretty quickly, like, wow, I do not want to work in the film industry. It's intense and it's brutal. I was working on a Woody Allen movie right after college for summer as a production assistant, which is like intense. It was all on location shooting in New York City. And like I was a locations PA, which means you have to lock down the set. That means that while they're filming on, they have a legal right to film on a block of New York City, and pedestrians are not allowed to walk. So I was a person to tell cantankerous New York City pedestrians that they could not walk down the street that they wanted to walk on. So yeah, there were like 3 deaths. I was like, oh, it's just a 2 death threat day today. That wasn't too bad. So yeah, so that was intense. Where was I going with that? Yeah, film. So I had this idea for a comic, Rex Mundy. I kind of was another production assistant for another movie. It was like a documentary in Paris. And I was just stuck with the bags. I was a production assistant. So they went into all these beautiful places in Paris to film, like Saint-Sulpice or Notre Dame or like Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Anyway, these beautiful places. I got to see none of them because I was outside like a jerk, like with the bags, like a complete moron. But, I was just standing there in the street kind of like thinking, wow, it must be really great inside there. And that's kind of how Rex Mundy was born. But just, this is one of like the low points. Flash forward, we submitted Rex Mundy to Image Comics, and there was some back and forth, and it kind of came to a head at the Chicago Wizard World convention in 2001 or 2000, if I'm not mistaken. At any rate, someone from Image Comics came by our booth and said, after all of this like heartache and Sherman, like all of our hopes and dreams and fears and anxieties were riding on Image, came by and said, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. I don't think this is a good fit for Image Comics. And it was after we thought we were going to be, I don't know, it was, wires got crossed a little bit, but we were under the impression that they were going to publish us. I had a total nervous breakdown in the airport. I just started, because I missed my flight too. It was just like, I just didn't need to miss my flight. So I was just like weeping hysterically in the Chicago O'Hare International Airport at like 3 a.m. There was like the Zamboni guy, like, you know, polishing the floor, with just me and him, just like, I'm like curled up in a fetal position. He's like, so yeah, that was kind of a low point. I lost all my hair at publishing Rex Mundy.
I just kind of assumed that you didn't have hair at that point. You're one of those guys who realized early, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, no, I lost it that night, and you know, it was a happy ending. We did end up getting published by Image, and I'm, you know, forever grateful for them. But no, yeah, I lost all. I used to have a glorious full head of hair, and then I decided to start publishing comics.
Now, has that been the general barometer ever since? Out of curiosity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I love it. I think it's intense. There's been a lot of ups and downs in my career. A lot of people say that. Here's what I have found. I know that we're talking about marketing, which I really appreciate, because I appreciate what you do. I think marketing is extremely important. I think what I have noticed for myself is that good things have happened in my career when I do things of my own initiative, on my own. So that's where I'm at right now. I am going back to self-publishing, and I have more control over the marketing aspect also, which is extremely, extremely, extremely important.
Well, it's when the pressure's on you and the bill's on you, it's a much easier calculation, I think, for people. The minute you start throwing other cooks into the kitchen, other people that have their own bag that they need to grab, the math just starts getting complicated. And I don't think it ever really works out in anyone's favor with math is that complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't work out. It's never worked out in my favor. I mean, it works out for someone, I guess. You know, and we'll talk. I think we'll get into this later in the show, or, you know, now, whenever you want. But I can definitely talk about some marketing things that have worked for me and some marketing things that have not worked for me. And it's exactly what you're saying. That what you just said really resonates with me. A lot of cooks in the kitchen, basically. Yeah.
What I'd actually like to start with is, Rex Mundy. That was a big part of, you know, your comic writing career. Where are we at now? What are you currently working on? I could say that I've seen parts of it, and frankly, what I saw blew my mind. I just loved it. Was that we're still working on that, or where are we at?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'm really, really, really blessed. Oh, God, I don't even know where to start. Okay, I'm going to go with like another long worn piece. Kind of origin story on The Band of the Crow. That's what it's called. It's called The Band of the Crow, and it's a fantasy novel. It's fantasy. Through Rex Mundy, I got really interested in Indo-European. There's this religion called Mithraism. I don't know. I just got very interested in pre-Christian traditions and how they impacted Christianity. So I got very interested in Indo-European linguistics and sort of proto-culture. For instance, this blew me away. Hindi and English are in the same language family.
Yeah. What's funny is that a lot of the things that you think are related language-wise aren't, even though they have, like, the number of click languages that there are, as they're called, and where you find them, and have, like, these people have never met each other very clearly, but somehow languages developed independently, or yeah, I'm a big John McWhorter fan. So I've done a little study in language.
Yes, John McWhorter, he's brilliant. He's fearless. John McWhorter is a very Very interesting guy. Very unlike like a legit linguist, which I'm not. I'm a total amateur. But this is one of my favorite stories. There's a healing prayer in Hindi. It's like it's very distinctive. It's like from marrow to bone, from bone to flesh, from flesh to skin. The idea is that you're like expelling the sickness from you. It's written in a very particular way, and the exact same prayer is found in Old Norse. So, and this is like the Norse gods all ride around in chariots, but there are no chariots in Scandinavia. So, like, how do they even know what chariots are? And the Hindu gods also drive around in chariots. So this is a long way of saying I just got really interested in these kind of like deep level connective kind of cultural and linguistic.
I was gonna say next. It was the next line that you're gonna tell me about the aliens and the the before times people that were here on the planet before us.
I don't go that far, like that stuff's all, but I took Latin in high school, and it's crazy. I was looking at Sanskrit, the structure. Well, this is how it was discovered that like the English went to India. They started studying Sanskrit, and their jaws dropped into their laps because it's very similar to Latin. The structure of Sanskrit is very similar. So the inescapable conclusion is that Sanskrit and Latin are both descended from some lost common language and some lost common culture, and somewhere in the mists of prehistory. And that's kind of how Indo-Europeanism was born. Yeah.
I find it interesting that like history for you seems to kind of come up again and again in the things that you tend to write. Is there a particular reason that thing is so impactful on you as far as like the type of writing that you like to do?
Yeah, I love the connection between myth and history. I love Dark Ages. It's the age of the Iliad and the Odyssey. This is another thing. Like it probably really happened. The events of the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's probably based on some real historical events. Like what happened exactly, we'll never know. But there's a grain of truth there. Similarly, I think not Rex Mundy. The Band of the Crow is inspired by all the legends that came out of the fall of the Roman Empire. Things like King Arthur. There probably was a King Arthur. He's probably an historical person or like a collection of historical people. Sigurd the Dragon Slayer. They're all like real people. I just think that that's amazing. And it's the mystery that's so amazing to me too. I mean, what really happened?
So we were talking about, the history and the interplay and like the storytelling that you choose to do.
Right. So like yada, 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 Indo-European, ultimately I think the genesis for the story really came in a Mexican restaurant in Times Square in 2005. That is when it all started.
That's a long time ago, for the record. It's almost 20 years ago. And
I've been working on the story for like 20 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is which part of the story? What's taken 20 years? Has it been finding the right other players to make it make it happen, or is the idea behind it just like the story itself? You felt that passionate about that it had to be perfect when it came out. Like, what lets a person spend 20 years on something, I guess, without like just at some point calling it finished?
I know. No, I ask myself that and it's funny because that's how I know I'm on to something. Sort of like with Rex Mundy, if you get challenged and your faith is still strong in a project, to me, that's a sign that it's the thing that you need to be working on. My belief in the Band of the Crow has never wavered once. I'm even more enthusiastic about it now than I was back at that fateful day in Chevy's Muy Auténtico Restaurante Mexicano in Times Square in 2005. I feel more strongly about it now than I did then. It started as a novel. I thought I was going to get out of writing comics and write a novel. I thought I had a little success writing comics. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm, the biggest, baddest, best deal in comics, but I had a little bit of success, and I thought I'd be able to parlay that into a novel, writing a novel. So that's what I did. The Band of the Crow started out as a novel, and it's a fantasy novel. I love world building, sort of to a fault. So I spent a lot of time world building on it. So it's so funny, Nick. You just like you blink, you open your eyes, and it's just like 5 years have gone by, and I realized, wow, I've been like quote unquote world building for 5 years.